CFR Network, CFR News, Shalom, Balance, Paradise, Righteousness, or Niha, Wassalam, all of the universal greetings. Glad to be back, fast and rapidly approaching the Gregorian year of 2023. And a good way to wrap it up is to bring the sibling on, who we haven't built in some time, TCA. Welcome to the broadcast, sibling. What do you do?
Hey, I'm very, very well. Thank you for inviting me on. And let's get into this conversation.
Most deaf. So I thought we would start it off quite haphazard of sorts in regards to a wrap up of 2022. It's gone with a blink of an eye. Like what have been some of the major sort of stick out points for you for this quick 365 Gregorian year?
Just, I guess, how COVID is no longer an issue anymore to an extent. Like we were getting, we're being attacked by this vicious, ferocious, never-ending virus, and it just seems to have slowed down. And now we're in a war situation, apparently, with Ukraine and stuff like that. And it's like due to the war got rid of the virus, or put the virus into hibernation. So
yes,
it's a very interesting
indeed.
thing.
And now we're getting into the we've had a bit of snow and stuff, depending on where you are, it might be lighter or heavier, but I'm pretty sure we might have some more. I mean, because we've got that scarlet fever thing that I've got parents or Sean, what's going on? And prior, wasn't there a polio incident, and they were blaming it on obviously the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, mainly, who are coming over by lots of different means, whether they're fleeing alleged war-torn countries, etc. But they're coming over here and they were saying, look, your children, you need to get these things put into your little children to protect against the other little children. Even though the Most High created us and our internals generally perfect, especially in regards to immune system.
Absolutely. It's funny that scarlet fever epidemic now, and people are, I think they've said 6 children have died with strep A infections in the UK. And I guess what's going to be the next panic to get people, because it's all about energy harvesting, really.
Yes.
It's all about keeping people in a state of fear. When you're in a state of fear, you're easy to control and govern. One, because you're not really thinking clearly and coherently, and 2, because it sounds like like excitement, euphoria, all of those things, how the pharmaceutical industry promote their stuff, stress pills, stress relief, mental health, anxiety. So it's all like, all it is like a business framework. And these things are essential to have a very prosperous business. If people are thinking logically, then they would say, okay, maybe I can look at a herbal route. Maybe I can look at just knowing how my body works, the circulatory system, how does this body part relate to that body part, and look at things analytically. But when you're in a mind state of fear, you don't really use that left side of the brain that well.
Agreed. And just to add on top of that, you've also got the added climate that we're in now, reference energy bills, mortgage rates, it's like they're onto humanity and mankind. They are piling on all of these woes, challenges, obstacles, hurdles, the fear porn. It's just like, how much can people take? And if you don't have a analytical mind, if you cannot critically think, you're just going to be constantly, oh, this is coming, let me just bat that out of the way, let me just bat this out of the way, or let me land, let it land on my lap, and I'm going to stress over this. You mentioned mental health. The mental wealth of people and health has declined dramatically. You can just see it when you're out and about and you're just looking at people and they just look drains.
Mm.
Outside of the sun being busting and all that, and people had a bit of, smiles and all that. Now the sun gone, yeah, no more 40 degrees. People are just
Wow.
looking upset.
Mm. So you're saying people's images are reflective of their environment in terms of economically, socially, because we've come out of a social hiatus
Mhm.
of not being able to speak personally face to face. If it got so bad, like grandmas weren't embracing their grandchildren through fear of death or
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, it's interesting that because obviously I'm not in a city like that anymore. I'm kind
Mhm.
of like bush. So I don't
Yes,
really,
yes.
I'm so disconnected. It's only when I go to the city, which is very infrequent, that I see that. But because I don't have terrestrial TV and anything I watch, I choose to watch, you
Indeed.
know. So I'm not really like, even with that individual that you mentioned earlier with the charity and stuff, because I'm not really around that many people like that, and I'm not in the thick of a city environment. I don't really get caught up in the latest
Yeah.
hype unless I kind of stumble across onto it by accident, you get me, or design or whatever. So it's interesting that you're saying people's face bears witness to the trauma that they're experiencing potentially. Wow.
Well, it's hard these days to keep the facade up. Obviously people have the public facade and all these
Mm.
different facades. It's hard to keep that up now when in essence on social media you're flossing hard, you're living your best life and all that. And then once the phone turns off, you're sitting in an empty room, cold like a so-and-so, with a couple blankets wrapped on, looking at the
Wow.
at the electrical meter and the gas meter saying, "Raw, I've got to put another £10 in here, it's gonna run out."
Mm.
The stress of it, but to everybody else who'll come out the house, or she will come out the house and she'll be all smiles to a point, but the
Mm.
ones who have eyes to see and ears to hear, they will look and think, yeah, man, you ain't doing too good still. Clearly.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Man, I could just say all I can say is praise the most high, man, that in that situation, I'm not in that situation. I've just for the past 5 years I've been out of that
Yeah,
environment and
yeah.
been able to predict the storm before it arrived and had contingencies in place so that I
Mhm.
haven't really been impacted by anything to make me um fearful. And obviously if you've been impacted by things, you will be fearful if you don't know where things are going to come in to feed the family or to heat the house or to do this and that. Then like you said, you have a facade, a persona, and then that's interchangeable depending on who you're around. But for me, because of where I'm based and just because of the foresight, um like for example, when COVID hit, I was just walking around on the beaches by myself, like nobody was around, and it was a blessing. It was just like I
Mm,
felt like I was in paradise. Like I was like, yo, this is some paradise, this fresh beach, man, and the
yeah,
wildlife, the hedgehogs, the deers, and them things there. You know what I'm saying? I was just like,
yeah,
me and my
man.
youths just walking up and down, and it was just like, I mean, I am legend. Just walk.
Freedom, a
Yeah,
free
man.
thing. Yes,
I
yes.
like. I've never experienced that. And then when I go back to Birmingham, but I rarely go anymore. But when I do go back, I notice that there's a lot of gentrification now. I just noticed that it seems very grey. And
Yes.
obviously, if you're all living on top of each other, which we all have done in that environment and place, then it comes with hostility,
Hmm.
and it's just natural, isn't it? Like for example, if you have a free piece sofa and I'm sitting next to you, and on that free piece sofa, it's uncomfortable as men to sit on a free piece,
Yes,
with the next man.
yes.
It's like, yo, okay, I'm at the far end of the extremity, you're at the other end of the extremity. In that middle piece, in that middle passage, that's like, you know, we don't really cross that threshold subconsciously. You'll be on your
Mm,
side, I'll be on my side. Now, if it's a gal them or a female, you might go a bit closer, but then there's boundaries if you're married and that, and you just got a different mindset.
indeed.
Like I wouldn't try to rub my leg up on a woman because I'm married. You get me? But the
Ex-
certain the certain boundaries, you get me. So if you link it like that on just a social level, like a very personal, intimate social level, zoom out of that and look at that from a environmental perspective. And if you have houses on top of houses, it's impractical. You know, it's
Mhm.
going to be hostility, combativeness by design. You ain't even done them, you know.
Of
just by
course.
design. Handsworth and Ladywood, or you know, Newtown versus this town. It's just stripping
Uh,
us really when you step back and check the play. But when you're caught up in that environment, that's all you know.
it's just natural. It's just, this is what it is. This is what I was born into. This is what I see every day. This is my environment. So you adapt or quote unquote die, right?
100%.
But the other thing by design, which they've done, as you've mentioned, the gentrification, I mean, historically, up until, let's say, late 90s, most areas had a, this is a mixed kind of area. This is a predominantly black area. This is an Asian area kind of thing. That you can't necessarily say that anymore outside of the Asian areas. There's pockets
Mm.
of white areas, but it just seems with these influx of from the Kosovans, from the Bosnians, the Chechens, the Afghanis, the East African wave with the Somalis, Eritreans, etc., the Nigerian wave. There's just so many different cultures within Brum. And
Mm.
let's not forget that London is saying, "Oh, you've got an eviction problem. Okay, yeah. Well, we're gonna throw you out the house. Just pack all your stuff up and leave it outside. If some stuff gets teeth, no worry about it. But what we've got is a wonderful, nice place for you. You're gonna have to travel a bit though. It's in the West Midlands. It's in Birmingham. You have a nice little house up there. You can
Wow.
come out of London, even though you've grown up there. You're probably third, fourth generation, six generations of being a Londoner. No. You're now in Brum.
Mm.
Different
Mm.
culture, different scene, no underground thing. They have just matched all the cultures to get it up here.
I'd say that's like America. It's like a melting pot. And again, it's by design. If you keep people fragmented, then they have to work together to iron out their differences to be able to challenge the puppet master per se, or to lay a claim, because you got to link up with the Bengali brothers and link up with the Pakistani brothers, then the Negro brothers, then the mixed brothers, then
Yes.
the European brothers, and before you know it, you got a cousin who's half Pakistani, you got another cousin who's half Indian, another cousin who's half European, another cousin who's half this and half that, and then your whole family's just blended, fragmented, and even in your own family, you got culture clashes. You know, some of your
Yes.
family are on S Club 7, you're like, huh, what's that? And some of your other family are on reggae vibes. You're like, yeah, man, I can vibes with that. So it's just pure mishmash and mashmish by design, you know, which is not the Most High's way, you know, because the Most High is very clear. And then people think it's racist, but it's not. It's just preference, you know. Um, like Muhammad Ali would say, bluebirds, bluebirds, redbirds, redbirds. But it's very controversial, very um it's not well received today.
It
But
isn't
but the
sibling, and
thing
you,
is, I just understand that I just understand the formula. Like the world works with formula like maths. Maths is about equations and formulas, yeah. So there's nothing bad about a formula. But when you, like I said, when the world that we live in has kind of painted that formula in a bad way, I can understand why people are a bit hostile to that.
yeah, because we've been prescribed, and then I'll play righteous advocate. Oh well, TCA, like we're the apex, animals. Yeah, of course, bluebirds and tigers and lions and stuff, but we're more advanced, you see. So we can make a choice whether and also there are differences, and sometimes within the animal kingdom that may happen, but because we're advanced and we have that critical thought patterning and the ability of choice, we can do what we want, TCA.
So the animal is less advanced than us, but he knows or she knows that the purpose of life is to reproduce themselves. We're more
Indeed.
advanced than them, but we don't know that the purpose of life is to reproduce yourself. In fact, that's racist. That don't make no sense. So it just shows you the mind state of people, man. And like I said, most people, when you speak to them on a level, most European people, like I spoke to a Scottish guy the other day, man. He was like, "Oh, too many strangers are coming up here now." And he looked at me because we were just having a general chat. You get me? He looked at me and was like, I don't mean to be racist. I'm not trying to be racist." I said, "Bro, listen, you're all right to say that, blood. I'm a stranger, man. How you mean? Like,
Mm.
in a sense, to an extent. I know we was up here before and this, that, the other, but as at the moment in time, I'm like, okay.
Yes.
But he wasn't singling me out per se. It was just and the way he was saying it, he weren't trying to be offensive. He was just trying to say his truth in it. I said, look, man, nothing wrong with you being patriotic and loving yourself on a national level. That's not
Yes.
racist. But when it transitions into like intolerance and just belligerence against a certain characteristic, then that's an issue. But we're supposed to be hospitable with everybody until people give us a reason not to. And he's like, yeah, man, I see, you get it. I said, bro, I know, but people in the Matrix, man, and
Yes.
they think being patriotic is racist. So white people can't even be proud of being white. Like, bro, be proud to be white, man. Some of the things you've done's a bit freaky, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. Likewise, some things that other nations have done have been freaky. I like to bring balance, man, and overstanding. You get me?
This is the whole thing: overstanding, understanding, and understanding. And also another fourth one to that will be equal standing, where we can all get on board with all of those three elements of analyzing the information, observing it, and then coming forth with the equal like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, why shouldn't I love myself? I mean, James Brown, I'm black, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
You sound like Kanye.
Even though when we get to it, black,
Yeah.
white is geosocial political terms. We
Mm.
do know that. I mean, some people are very hung up on that. No, because when you look at it in a legal sense and in a judicial sense, black is power. The judge wears black. When you're in a financial sense, if you're in the black, you're in credit. Yeah. So I get it. I totally get it. But it's so nondescript because as the knuckle dragging ignorant folk, they will see someone from the continent of Africa and they will see someone from the Caribbean and they will say, yeah, those black people. Yeah, our siblings who are in East India, they'll look at them and say, hey, they're black, they are. The Aboriginal folk of Australia, they will say, yeah, they're black.
Very, very loose term and very loose term of reference.
Definitely, and it strips us away from, again, as we already know. I'm not singing to the choir. This is more for the ones who are stumbling across this
Yeah,
thing.
man, 100%.
Like black, colored, Negro, West
Copper colored,
Indian,
man.
copper-colored races of the Americas. Caribbean is
Okay.
part of the Americas. Like, who? Okay, so how come you got all these titles? African American, Black British, Black West Indian. We've got our latest term now. If we look on our passports, we are now classed as Black British. There's no mention of West Indian, no Caribbean, nothing on there from our lineage. Where our forefathers and foreparents came from 2, 3, 4 generations before, which is a color now.
Wow, how times change, right?
And again, it keeps those people not knowing. Well, all right, yeah, I know my grandma comes from Antigua or from JA, yeah. I'm British. I'm black. That's it. Yeah,
And to be fair, there is some currency in those charges, because I was just thinking today, if you are if indigenous and native is just semantics to an extent, because let's just say that me and you, yeah, I'm assuming that your heritage is Caribbean,
yes, of
possibly
course.
Jamaican, possibly another island too. But yeah, so my ancestry is Spanish Town, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas. So I've never been born. I weren't born there though. So I'm indigenous to quote unquote Europe or Britain or whatever you want to call it.
England, yes, indeed.
England. I'm a native now of England because I'm native to here and I was born here. But that doesn't mean my ancestry is from here. And that's kind of where it gets misconstrued because people are like, well, I've been here 400 years or 600 years, and I know I come from Africa somewhere, but nah, man, I've been here 600 years, so that disqualifies everything now. And it's like, okay, I understand the reasoning because you are native, you are indigenous now because 400, 300, 500 years have passed. But where was the origin point? Where do you come from?
This is it.
And at the moment, there's just a strong in the American space movement to disassociate from the African space or say we're different when we're not. You know, understand? I mean, I got some fully pedigreed off brothers and sisters from the continent who blended out their seed a little bit here and there. And over time, if you imagine that for 400 years or 500 years, all that admixture, it'd be kind of like, for example, Tyreek Nasheed. Tyreek Nasheed's mixture. There's nothing wrong with mix and this and that, but
Mhm.
Tyreek Nasheed is there for foundational Black America, but yet you've identified as being mixed, which is cool.
What's he
But
saying
it's
he's
like,
mixed with though?
he's saying mix with everything. He's saying mix with- but it's like, you know, but then that same person will be not just him, but you know, your Dane Callaways and people of that sort saying they were Indian. I get it. I get it's just terminologies and wordplay. But then when you're profile anyway, it's just another can of worms, man. That just it's unnecessary when you just
It's-
overstand. There has to be a starting point to many things. And I know that Africa had colonies all over America, and it wasn't just slavery, and it wasn't just this, it wasn't just that. But that being said, where do you originate back to though? That's the point.
It's
British.
division, sibling, it's division. And I do get it because, and I know you've experienced it as well. There are some brothers and sisters from the continent who are clearly from a different tribe from us, and they're not down with us. They don't want nothing to do with us. And there are others
Mm.
who are cool. You know, we can see ourselves in them, like phenotypically, like raw. I didn't even think he was from the continent. I thought he was from one of the islands or something. No, bro.
Bro, look how it is with music and it like music, the music scene for us. Well, speaking for myself, but I know you're part of that same catchment, might be a little bit older or a bit younger, but I'm assuming you might be a bit more older. But Sidewinder in them days there, I was probably a youth. Now, when certain people were ripping that microphone at Sidewinder, we were just thinking they're all Jamaican or Caribbean. Well, we were just thinking they're all Caribbean guys and
Yes.
Wiley, like Caribbean. Okay. Then we just thought, okay, Dizzy Rascal. We thought Tinchy Strider or all them guys from back in that day.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We're
Yes.
like, all right, Napa, Shizzle. We thought,
Mm,
nah, he's a yardie. Shizzle's a yardie.
mm,
But certain man, them you're like, yo, it's only when it came out, like, oh yeah, Dizzy Rascal's African. What? He's African. Oh, Tinchy's African. What's African? Like, I remember when
yeah.
growing up, we didn't even know what Somalian was. Like, it was like,
Yeah.
there's one brother used to be around the ends and that. And we was like, oh yeah, he's a Negro, like he's black and that. And then years later, it's like, oh, I'm from Somalia. We're like, where's Somalia? In Africa? Africa, like, I thought, huh? Africa. So there's a lot of ignorance on steroids.
Yes.
When we were growing up and then you found out D-double-D or D-double-E and who else was there? Quite a few people, man, in the scene, man, growing up, and you just think, oh, they're Jamaican. We'll just put them in the Jamaican box or the Caribbean box.
Yes.
And then you grow up and
Yes.
you're like, hold up, you're Nigerian. What's Nigerian? Like you're Ghanaian. What's that? So there's been a lot of ignorance, but I guess in the UK space, there's an abundance of culture and nationalities and stuff. So we're a little bit more nowadays, more versed than probably the American space, but they've only had to deal
Yeah.
with
And think about it
Mongolians.
as,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go
of
on, bro.
course. No, of course. And if you think about it, back them times, I mean, I didn't have in my junior school, there was literally white folk, Caribbean folk, East Indian folk, and there was one Chinese woman, young girl, I should say. When I went to secondary school, I don't think there was any Chinese people, Oriental people. It was just Asian, black. And again, there was no Africans. It wasn't until I left, I started seeing an influx. I'm like, what, so I wasn't personally exposed to anybody from outside of being Caribbean.
And the only thing we used to watch is things like Desmond's. That was the first time we probably saw in the Gambia.
Yes.
Before Matthew, we didn't really know what going on, and then we grew up with
Nah.
a lot of prejudices and stereotypes that we inherited from English culture, European culture, and we just like have I guess a negative connotation of Africa being charity this and there's flies and AIDS and HIV. And then when you check the play, you're like, hold up.
Yeah.
So our ancestors came from Jamaica, yeah. But where were they before Jamaica? And then you chase some of them back and it goes back to West Africa, even
Yes.
Central, even East. And you're like, wow, we've been so deceived for a long time. And everybody in their books of antiquity know who we are,
Yeah.
where we came from.
Yeah.
But then we have we have this Desmond in-house fighting spirit, pork pie, Matthew spirit. You know what I'm saying?
It's it's a test. It's a test. I think some of these people are paid agents. I think if they're not paid agents, they just see the financial value in causing more division. Because I do, but I do agree with some of the doctrine, and I'm using air quotes, that Mr. Calloway has in regards to original folk in the wilderness of North America, where indeed, because it's described in Christopher Colon's memoirs, in Piso's, all of those guys described people who look like us. Now you can say, okay, well, that was 1492, them kind of times, blah, blah, blah. All right. Where did they actually come from though? Like, and as you say, as science says, man comes from, the oldest bones come from Africa. But then we have to put another then into it, because this is where it gets complex. Lucy is supposed to be the oldest bones, right?
So I don't even agree with all the evolutionary rhetoric of Lucy in Africa and
This
South
is the
Africa and America.
thing.
I don't really subscribe to them things anyway. So it's like water off a duck's back to me.
Yes, because it's mute. Because if you, enough Pan-African brothers, unfortunately, cling on to this thing. Because if you look at, you know what Lucy is, right? Lucy's a monkey.
Yeah. I don't like I said, in it, when it comes to the evolutionary rhetoric and certain claims that are made, I don't even resonate with it to like advocate for it. But in terms of like Christopher Columbus and Cortez and all them people there, I've read all their books, like the references. I've read the references for myself. I've looked at it for myself. I've read what they've wrote and I've written, and I've seen the descriptions and what they're talking about. And I appreciate that we had settlements in Brazil, West Africa, Mali. I'm talking about before Mansa Musa. You know, all you have to do is follow the trade winds from West Africa, and you would end up in the Brazilian space. And it's interesting that the people of Liberia, you know, they're called, one of the biggest tribes in Liberia was called the Crew. And it's funny that when you have a ship, you have crewmen. So that just indicates how our people were born navigators. When you read the scriptures, one of the tribes, I think it's Zebulon or one of them, they were known for their their waterfaring, you know. And it's not just Israelites that were navigating by sea. Many nations were navigating by sea. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
But when I've read these things by Columbus, bro, I've read them like he's saying the people had horsehair, and he's saying that even describe white people there. Now we have to understand as well, there were people with white complexion in the American space.
Mongoloids.
Not even just the Siberian migration and the Indonesian migration, but
So
there was some people there that was probably from North Africa and probably even South Africa that migrated across there. Because when you read a lot of these Indian oral histories and traditions, they said that some giants suddenly just turned up on their doorstep off boats, and they were known for cannibalism, homosexuality, and taking over lands by mass. Like, I've literally got the documents. I read it the other day. I did a live stream on it. So it was an interesting place. It wasn't just one type of people there. Loads of people going to and fro. You know,
a hodgepodge.
Yeah, man. Like,
yeah.
Some people get lost in the color of black this or
I know
brown this and that. But some of the documents are saying it was kind of because when you look at what is it, the Azores? You know about the Azores? That was inhabited by, because that's near close to North Africa, Morocco, Mauritania. Like, it's kind of in the North African region.
That
In that
northeast
region,
kind of northwest.
You do have people that have a variety of complexions. Like, you have the Berbers, you have the Moors, but you had the blacker Moors. There's so much history. But there's a lot of ignorance.
See, let me pause you right there for one moment. Man. Moors, biblically, are Moors Canaanites?
Nah. Yeah, it's the reason, yes and no, but it's a complex one because it was a universal umbrella term.
Exactly.
But then over time, they, I guess, ostracized those who were black, and they called them the Blackamoor. because the Moors were a confederacy of Berber, Arab,
Exactly.
and
Yes.
sub-Saharan blacks
Yes.
who had been converted to Islam by the sword, or who were just
Indeed.
willingly converted to Islam. And then you had the Berbers, which were like a northern hybrid
Northern, nomadic kind of light
nomadic.
pale.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
So a lot of
yes,
them,
yes.
yeah, man. So a lot of them people them ended up in America. That's why you have more town and more this and more that. I get all of that stuff. But that being said, these people, I believe, based on the scripts now, because there's so much stuff that's come out recently about the scripts, man. That's just gave it validity for the African continent. And that's why I feel like everybody's going against the story of the African continent, because when you take away Africa from the equation, you can't call yourself no Israelite or try to make claim to any kind of heritage without Africa being in the mix.
Well, I heard a certain prolific universal ex-camp cult mention this oh yes, is what Israel is. It's you know, it's Africa, but it's not like the main body of Africa. It's up at the top. Yeah, whether it's the main body or not, it's still on the tectonic plates of Africa. Like we can't get away from it. And now don't get it twisted. We can rewind time maybe 3-4 years ago. No, probably even about 3-4 years ago. And I was yeah, but it's still different. No, it's still different. You know what I mean? But it's through knowledge, wisdom, understanding, reading the text more, and just looking and observing and thinking, okay, well, you know, logically, it makes sense. And all of us wasn't all put on ships. There was a
100%,
remnant
100%.
that's there, that's still there to this day, but they don't know that, you know, we've got the well-established tribes who are still keeping the commandments, etc. Although some of them have got the yolkamas on and all that kind of stuff, but that's a sidebar. But you've got people who are, unfortunately, they have fully integrated into the continental African spirituality, maybe, whether it be the conversion now into the Catholicism or the Seventh-day Adventists or whatever, and they have no clue, they have no identification, they don't know nothing about nothing because they're still here. They can maybe read about us in the book and say, oh, well, you know, those guys got scattered off, but we're still here on the continent, so that can't be us.
It's true, man, but it's an interesting one because not everybody got scattered and got put into a slavery situation. It was only 2 tribes. Predominantly, it would have been other people too, because no one had like a fine dossier of like, okay, 10 from here, 10 from here. But they were very strategic on who they were trying to take.
Yes.
And that's been archived quite immensely. And it's only because they changed names, they've changed things on maps, that's kind of made things a bit disjointed. But when you start to build with the people on the continent in terms of exchanging of communication and resources, you know, like for example, Benin, the name Benin is just a crucial, Benin is Wahida is Jehuda. So there's a place in Benin called Benoni, and Benjamin, before he was called Benjamin, he was called Benoni. So names are like GPS, they give you away. And that's why they changed the names. And, you know, when you go to the Ashanti or you go to Ghana, you have Ashan. There's a tribe called, there was a song called Ashan. And they say that Ti means the son of. So Ashanti means the son of Ashan. When you go to Congo, there's a place called Zaire. You see Zaire in the scriptures too. There's so many places that I just mentioned in the scriptures, bro. And you have to remember that the colonized Africa got rid of Bantu, got rid of certain languages, rid of certain customs. They demonized things and made things anathema and told people not to look into things and stuff like that. Then those who were dispersed, they did the same to them, re-educated them, miseducated them. So both sides of the equation, both, whether they be continental or diaspora, there's been a miseducation system in place to keep these guys from embracing each other.
Yeah.
When you start to embrace each other, you're like, rah, hold up.
In it.
What? Wow. And then you're just having that conversation. And you're like, wow, we're so, for example, brother, I've read some documentations and that when it comes to food, one of our staple diets in the Jamaican space is yam. Yeah. When you go to West Africa, you have the Wolof tribe, And the Wolof tribe, they say for food or for eating, they say nyam.
Ratids.
So when you start just chatting to man them on a level, not on no
Yeah,
religious thing, because I'm not even on
yeah,
the religious thing like that.
of
I'm on a
course not.
culture thing. Like, yo,
Indeed.
what is the culture? How
Mm,
does it harmonize?
yeah.
And let's move from there. Religion will keep you in your Adventist, your moment. Like I'm not on that. It's dead. The mindset's so dead. And I used to be with that mindset, so I know it's dead. But
Yeah,
you get me?
religio, divide, to separate, to divide. It's doing its job. It's doing its prescribed job. I don't necessarily think that any of these religions were supposed to be religions. They were supposed to be the
Mm-mm.
system for those set of people
Yep,
to deal
yep,
with.
yep, yep, yep. That's all it is, man. It's very simple stuff, man. It's so like, for example, this is what I'm saying. Like, I spoke to my Benin brethren, and there's a custom that they do. It's in the Bible. Yeah. Now, you would just say, "Oh, that's some African spiritual juju," but it's actually in the book. And this and the thing is this: when a man has a wife here, she's supposed to be a virgin. Supposed to be. That's how sacred we took sex. That's how
Mhm.
sacred we made things. But now everything's just up for grabs, literally. So there's a custom when a father gives it, like even the dowry system. There's so many systems that were just our system,
Yeah,
and it's in the scriptures, and it's
yeah.
complementary. It's just
Hmm.
African spiritualism, or
Mm.
whatever you want to call it. So when you get a woman, she's supposed to be a virgin, and if she's not a virgin, one of the tests is obviously the flower. So if the flower doesn't give any marks on the sheet, then that's not a virgin. So then you can ask for an investigation, or you can query the parents because you paid
Yes,
dowry for the bride, and the
indeed.
bride's not a virgin, so you've been shortchanged. And that was
Hmm.
like a um a way of proving if the girl's a virgin or not. So what would happen
Purity.
was, it's weird. It sounds creepy now, brother. The parents, after they do that little thing and open the present per se, using a metaphor, when they open the present, the parent would take the wrapper and have it as a souvenir. Sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but that is in case if it gets to court, or if the
Yes.
court is accused of being a whore, because
Hmm.
whoredom was a big taboo in our culture. But now whoredom is a
Yes.
big thing, batty riders and batty this and that. But that thing there was used as a witness by the parents to say, look, when we gave it to her, she was a virgin. We have the proof.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
have a receipt. Yeah. It's a custom that they do today in Nigeria. Sounds creepy, sounds funny, but then when you show people it's in the book,
Yeah.
they're like, huh? But it's
I
just
knew I knew about
communication.
the exactly communication and keeping these traditions going on. I knew about the cloth thing, but I didn't know
Mm.
about them keeping it after still.
Yeah, man. Like it's weird. It's weird, but you pull it from check it like this year. I'm not saying I'll be up for that one, but you get people that they lose their teeth and a tooth fairy comes, and many of our parents have got our teeth as ornaments somewhere in their little ornament box. I'm like, what you do with my tough, mom? Like, give my tough back, bro.
For real, but so I get no, and that's an excellent analogy to go along with it, because that's what it is. It's a significant physical memory which has been encapsulated in that sense. You pick it up. Oh shit, I remember my daughter. This is the thing. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
this
man.
tooth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because yeah, man, him busting tooth off the door, and yeah, yeah, something Mrs. Baby took now. Yeah, yeah. Man,
Man out there making tooth change.
like Papa Shango from WWF days.
You know what I'm saying? Bit of tough chain. So when you like literally strip back all of because even in the American Indian space, I know there are some American Indians who have West African ancestry. But for example, there's a tribe out there, the Seminole. Now the Seminole integrated with the indigenous Indians or native Indians. So I don't get caught up in the wordplay. But the
Mhm.
people them that were there from Siberia, who went all the way down to South, Meso, and North, because they still have the
Yes.
same phenotype, bro. Whether you
Yes.
see them, they're not all mongoloid. Some of them have a rectangular head,
Hmm.
and they're further South America. Some of them have like a circular head. They're more like Meso and North, but they all look the same, bro, to an extent. To an extent, and yeah, it's kind of like there's a tribe in the American space. Obviously, the Seminoles are not really a tribe; they're like a combination of
I
people
was gonna
coming
say,
together.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But one of the language that these people spoke was Gula or Gula.
Gula. Yeah.
And then Gula just takes you back to the continent. So it's
Mm.
just miseducation on steroids, man, when it comes to who people are. And obviously people have mixed and had relationships with people, and then people have divided loyalties, and then they want to probably try, cling to two, or probably try and mix up the thing and cause a bit of contention due to not really knowing where they fit in, which happens. It's natural, it's normal. But at the same time, you have to have a origin starter place
Mm.
of origin to an extent.
Yes.
So
Yes. But again, which makes it even more complex of sorts. It's okay, yeah, I hear these Hebrew brothers, these Israelite brothers, they're talking all this stuff, and yeah, it kind of makes sense and stuff. But you know, before that, and
mm,
before it was an oral tradition, we've got like an infinity of years that Africans on the continent were doing their thing, and they had all these different spiritual systems, which I'm pretty sure wasn't the same. They may have similar bits and pieces because as the Pan-Africans and the African spirituality people say, the Bible stole all this stuff from Kemet and some of the other spiritual systems and stuff.
yeah, 100%, man. You have the negative confessions in the Egyptian religion, negative confessions, which is similar to some of the moray or morals in the scriptures. So there is
Yes.
definitely overlapping and overhanging. You'd be insane to say there isn't, but it's as if when it came to a certain time period, a distinction was made to iron out or consolidate how the custom should be. Because even when you just look at the 12 tribes of Israel, then two of the tribes were mixed with Egyptians, bro. Like, what are you
Yes.
talking about? Like, two of the tribes, bro, are mixed with Egypt, bro. And not only that, his name's Ephraim. Like,
Mhm.
Ephraim. And then you read the book, there's a prophet called Ezra. You know, if you read the book again, you have a prophet called Deborah. If you look at the Old
Yes.
Testament, it's called the Torah.
Prophetess. Yes.
It's like there's so many, like, but what like what I'm saying, what religion does, it gives you one little soundbite. All the Egyptians were evil. That's why they got the 10 plagues, and Pharaoh got took out because he was a bad man, and this, that, and the other, which is true to an extent.
Yeah.
However, what they fail to realize is that Joseph was used to save Egypt. Yahushua, allegedly, according to the story, he found refuge in Egypt. So a lot of the times there's a one-sided critique of that Egypt's the ultimate boogeyman, but then we don't do the same when it comes to the Greeks. Because in the book of
Yes.
Maccabees, the book they took out, the Greeks were raping us, killing
Yes.
us, but we don't talk about the Eurocentric abuses. We only talk
Forcing
about
us to eat
quote unquote
pork.
black and black. Yeah. So the way we've been brainwashed to hate melanin or
Mm.
ham or this and that, it's just ridiculous. I don't really subscribe to a lot of the folly, to be honest, because there's too much places where it over. Even Psalm 23 or the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, his rod and staff comfort me. The Pharaohs had a rod and a staff.
Mhm.
So it just don't make that much sense to disconnect from everything and say everything's evil because it's Egypt. Now some things were a bit funky, going out with all your daughters and that. Pharaoh doing a
Yes,
jig.
but you see, with that kind of thing, we're talking about the pharaonic periods,
Of course.
pre-dynastic Egypt. You had, original folk in essence from the continent of Africa. Post that period up into the latter part, it was all kind of different nations coming here, taking the throne and this and that.
Mm,
So it's again, you've got to look at things very widely. We can't just look at one
narrow.
section. Okay,
Mm,
yeah, very narrow, very linear. Like, okay, let's look at the pharaonic sections. Pre-dynastic Egypt. Oh, Nubia. What connection does Nubia have to Egypt apart from the geographical location? It's south of Egypt, plus Shemet. Like, well, no, that's the building block. Without Nubia, Sudan, there would be
yeah.
no Kemits.
But that's when you got to realize that the maps are upside down potentially.
Mm,
That's another story for another day, man. But the maps are kind
definitely.
of upside down. South Africa, it's an interesting one. Like, how is the water running? How does water run
And
up?
now upwards.
It just don't make sense. So
That blew my mind when I first got that jewel. I was like, huh?
Lesotho, in South Africa or near South Africa, known as the island or the kingdom of the sky, because it's
Hmm.
so high up. In fact, there's some places in South Africa where they have a lot of snow. And
Yes, on the
when you read the
peaks.
book, exactly, and when you read the book of Enoch, it says he was in Eden, which is in East Africa, like Uganda, possibly like that kind of region, probably even modern day Ethiopia, which is kind of injustice. But in the book of Enoch, it says when he got taken, he went through some ice. He went through some ice. You're like, huh? Ice. Then when you check it, South Africa is not a million miles away from the Antarctica. And you're like, could have been a land bridge? Could he just went technology wise across? Because it says even that, man, there's so much questions you have when you read these things, man, and you start to understand
I
the history and the
yeah.
maps. You get me?
Ye- But the maps are an important thing. I mean, we go back, depending on what map author that you are
Mm,
looking at. We've got Negro land being like the top half, of dividing Africa. The
mm,
dark lands being below it. We look at other maps. We've got Judah kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. We got, it's it's all there. But as we started to build on, they're throwing so much things at you, and because you've been conditioned not to necessarily want to think outside of the box,
mm.
just to consume the housewives from Orange County, just to go on to Coonstar hip hop, as I refer to it as, to watch people beat themselves up and fight videos and all kind of debauchery. I mean, just think. You walk up to someone and you punch them in the face and knock them out and they fall backwards. They could bust their head open and die.
Mm.
Like people are not, soccer kicking people in the head. They're not thinking. People are just, they've been conditioned so well, sibling. I feel, I feel terrible for the youth, for some of the adults who have been conditioned to the point where they can do these things. Because fair enough, you defending home, family, property, of course, you might get down in a certain way. But to just go out willy-nilly and just say, yo, I'm gonna knock out my man over there, film this shit and we'll put it on, on social media. It's insanity.
Mm. Definitely, man. Definitely. Especially growing up, we never had 24-hour stimulation. I mean, even if you was getting bullied in school, 'cause I was a little terror when it came to like, I guess name calling, because I was very
Mhm.
quick with
With the wordplay.
yeah, yeah. Glory to the Most High. Very, very kind of quick with the wordplay. So, um, but even in that, you had a break on the weekend, or you had a break when school ends. But this generation now, it's like 24/7 possibly with your mobile phone and Facebook or all these
Yes.
social media outlets, man. I'd hate to be a child going into school nowadays, man. That's just
Oh, but sibling, what are the parents doing, allowing their children to have access to damn social media? Now, of course, there are ways around it, and certain children, and kids, I'm gonna make that delineation, will push the boundaries and say, I was told not to do it, but you know what? I'm gonna sneak on and see what the deal is, kind of thing. So we get that. But as a parent, you should be saying to your child and to your kids, none of that until you reach 16. Yeah, you see what's going on, right? We're driving in the car and I'm pointing out all of the dysfunction within
mm,
teenage society. I don't want you a part of none of it. So until you
mm,
reach 16, and at that point, you've got enough, you know yourself, you know your self-worth, you know your foundation, which we have created to get you to this point. So then I'm going to leave it to you to trustfully make the best decisions you can. People are just like, yeah, man, give them the iPhone 29. Yeah, man, open it up. You want £55 a month? I'll spend that for your credits to get you to play your games and all that. Yeah, man, do it. It's insanity, sibling.
boy. So I do think there should be responsibility predicated upon age. But
Mm.
not everybody at the same age has the same mindset. But I guess a standardized approach of saying 16, or because I know some 30-year-olds well, I don't. I used to, should I say. But you come across people who are big. Like, for example, put it like this year. when somebody gets arrested or incarcerated at let's say 16, and they do a 10-year bird, they come out at 26.
Mm.
Sometimes, I know times are changing now, accessibility to information, but sometimes those people come out of prison and they have that same mentality as a 16-year-old, although they're 26.
Yes.
So we're having in our community, especially a lot of our um, brothers and cousins and fathers and them things there have came out. Well, unfortunate for me, I only had a sibling who went to prison. My dad never went to prison. I never went to prison. But yeah, in our generation, especially, we were targeted wrongfully, rightfully, stop and search, criminalized, ostracized. I don't want to give it too much of a victim mentality, even though we are victimized.
Yes.
But in our generation, especially now, we got men who are boys and a system that won't cater for men to be men. They have to be
Mm.
feminized. They have to be effeminate because that's the only way we can deal with them, or we have to medicate them. So we're living in a system now where you can't even be a man if you wanted to, but you still have to because you're a man. You know what is there?
It's a catch
Um,
22, man. It manhood,
discipline,
manhood.
the discipline that we may have received, good or bad, at least she was able to do certain disciplines, but now that discipline, forget it. And that's why the children are not fearful of their parents. And it's a catch 22. It's a knock-on effect. If you don't set a boundary, if you don't put before you remove a fence, that's why it was put there. So a lot of fences are being removed. And then this is why we have the situation we have now where the children won't listen to their parents, they won't listen to the state, they won't
Mm,
listen to the state, then they're gonna be incarcerated.
mm.
You know what I'm
More
saying?
money, more
It's
money,
all about
more
money, man.
money.
Like dysfunctionality pays, bro.
It really does, and people just don't get it on so many different levels. It pays all the. Think of all, and I bring this point up all the time. Think of the industries that are connected to the incarceration of original folk:
Mm,
lawyers, solicitors,
mm.
transport. Yeah, these
Everything.
agencies, the food people, them, the maintenance of the building, the security, the fire safety, the health and safety, the training, the food. Come on, man, everybody's getting paid, boss.
Mm, mm. But it's in a capitalist society, you gotta have winners and losers, and you gotta have one that keeps
Mm,
the wheel spinning per se.
mm,
But then in
mm.
communism, it's just government controlled. So in both of these, I guess, governmental operandi, you're in Pop Street either way. You get me? Like capitalism, you have to have a loser, and,
Yeah.
and socialism is just government control, Big Brother on steroids.
And then fascism, which people don't necessarily talk about, which is just the same as communism, but just very harsh and a lot more in your face. You know what I mean?
Kim Jong kind of thing. Kim Jong.
Yes, yes, yes. Hey, Sibling, as we wind this build down, let's touch on the one I would say one of the biggest distractions specifically aimed at original folk, which then obviously, filters across the other nations. We've had Ngozi Fulani attend a Buckingham Palace function relating to 13 days of some kind of event relating to like violence against women or something.
Mm,
And the media, I mean, I'm driving along, pardon self, as I do, with the radio on, going from appointment to appointment. And I hear this, oh yeah, there's racism talk, and she got questioned for up to 10 minutes about where she comes from at Buckingham Palace. And I'm thinking, what on earth? And I'm hearing it everywhere. I go on social media, I'm seeing all these things. So I do the knowledge, and you know, and then I see loads of interviews from her, quite articulate history, and I do the knowledge. Okay, she's putting in some work, boots on the ground. Why is this all in the media? What's going on? What's really hood, as they say in the wilderness of North America? Why is this being promoted and propagated? And what's the ultimate goal, sibling?
I would say, in my opinion, which is not to be taken as fact, I say it's just and distractions and I guess distractions because when we had Prince Andrew doing his little thing that he was doing,
Mm,
the media wasn't so forthcoming to keep reminding you And even if they were, it was due to being pressured, or you can tell that was definitely a pressure. They were like, okay, it's already out, so we need to control the narrative. But then you
Yes.
have certain situations that come out, like the Kyrie Irving situation, where it's as if it was just the tweet. So someone's gone around to hype up a tweet to put it into a position where now it's gone viral. So it's interesting. Similarly, with this situation, with this individual who works for a charity, was it Red Cross or
No, it's
charity?
called Sister Space, Sister with a H at the end, Sister Space, who it's predominantly, well, it's exclusively for Afro Caribbean and Afro African women charity who have been abused.
Uh, I, I, like I said, man, I just see things as smoke and mirrors. They wanted it to go out. Why did they want it to go out? Is it for a feminist push? Is there some in-house feminist beef? Is there some that we want to just throw some racial animosity out there,
Yeah,
keep
I
people
think
distracted?
that's it. That's the biggest thing. I think that the other ones, you know, the feminism elements, I think that can be utilized at some point. But the main thing is to divide, because I've been on one of the first things I did social media wise. I said, let me go into the most toxic platform and let's see what people's thoughts are in relation to this. So I obviously went onto Twitter.
Hmm.
And the vile on their sibling is just crazy. I can't believe these people are on there. And they got their pictures of them, whether it's them actually. They got like their raw pictures,
Boy.
their names on and everything, talking the most wickedest thing. And to give more context, if people don't know, the listeners and the siblings, them, this isn't just so-called European white people. This is so-called black people who are saying, my gal, she's a race beta. Her name's not even Ngozi Fulani. She's misappropriating and reappropriating African names. She's wearing African cloth and she's Caribbean. She's a fraud and a race beta. I'm thinking, now
Oh, boy.
on the surface, I can understand. I mean, forget the race baiting element of
Mm,
it,
mm, mm.
but I understand their curiosity. Okay, well, you know that Afro-Caribbean, as we've discussed in length, you know, the plight and what we've been through. So some people are searching for an identity.
Mm.
And they look back to the continent because we were told we were put on ships, etc. So what's wrong with her identifying and utilizing a more African name versus a more European name? What's wrong with that?
It's interesting because, like you said, if that's our identity, why can't she identify with that? And like I said, like we've kind of established, there's a lot of ignorance on steroids. You know, even in the diaspora space, in the English space, we don't, like, our grandparents were kind of anti-African.
Mhm.
Not to an extent of being anti. There was a lot of, I guess, jokes made at Africans' expense,
Yes,
and then
yes.
conversely, on the continent, there's jokes made against the diaspora's expense. You
Mhm.
know, and then in the scriptures, it talks about these two nations, these two family members vexing each other. You know, the
Mm.
whole world comes together at any time, whether it be Remembrance Day. The Japanese and the Americans will come together probably for Pearl Harbor, but when it comes to our people, it's like there's a system in place that can't make the two people become one, despite artificial differences.
Mhm.
So her going by Ngozi Fulani, Fulani is interesting because that's like a it's like an Arab name in a sense. Fulani, they're more Muslim, Arab based
Yes.
people. So that's interesting because the Queen, she traces her lineage back to allegedly Muhammad and
Muhammad's peace be
Islam.
upon him, as they say.
Exactly. So it's just interesting, like the the poking of the bear. For what reason are you
Yes.
poking the bear? Are you poke?
Mhm.
It's always political, whether it's to sell newspapers, whether it's to go viral to push a little race agenda to get some race money, balance, charity, like with Black Panther Party, not but Black Lives Matter and all them kind of things there. Because to be honest, black brothers get killed daily and
Mm.
sisters get killed daily, but certain stories they amplify. And then you check
Yes.
this, you check the background, and the father's a Mason, or they're a part of the Booley establishment. And sometimes in the game of chess, you have to sacrifice pawns to bring out an agenda.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
everyone gets suckered into the emotional element part of it. But when you step out of it and you like assess the situation, why is Al Sharpton always summoned? Why is Benjamin Crump always summoned? We know these guys are gatekeepers and Boule. It just seems to be
Fishy.
the same cycle of ignorance, and then wanting a black messiah or wanting somebody to liberate, when you have to allow the Most High to liberate yourself. You know, you have to understand that there's a game being played, and it happens every year or so. Black man dies, people are in arms, and then more laws come in place to go against you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's so key what you said there. There's no black messiah. There's no Chinese messiah for, well, potentially in another respect for the other nations, but there's no messiah universally that's coming to save anybody like that. You, whoever's listening, you are the person who's going to be able to do what is necessary, you know, to change your life. If you want to eat something, it doesn't just appear at the sky, does it?
hmm.
If you want to pay bills, the money doesn't just magically appear in your bank without doing nothing. You got to put in that work, right? And then you reap the rewards from the work. So there's no people. It's their love with this externalizing of someone on this physical plane coming to save them all. Donald Trump's going to come and save us. He's going to
Hmm.
clear the swamp. You know what I mean?
Hmm. It's
You
funny
know.
you say that. I know we got to wrap up in a second because I
Mm,
got to shoot off. But it's
mm.
funny you say that about the Donald Trump. I'll have to come in a second. But yeah,
No, go, jump, come.
it's an interesting one. But where I'm placed strategically, there's an individual that I won't even say his name, but he's an interesting character to say the least. But this brother is like up there with well, he was formerly up there with the aristocracy, to the point where he used to ride with Prince Harry. That's how high he's up there, and it was up
Bruh.
there in the aristocracy. Yeah, man, very interesting character. And I was just having a discussion with that individual um recently, and it's more like a conservative Christian Eurocentric
Mm,
opinion. So he sees Donald Trump as a messiah,
the
somebody who's
dude.
gonna kick out the Kabbalah, and not the Kabbalah, the Cabal, and set everything straight and bring in a new order of peace and prosperity for the world and stuff. So it's funny that every group or every people have this like messiah complex to an extent. Now, don't get it twisted. There is something that's going to happen, because I don't believe that you get away with evil.
Yes,
Like
of course not.
there has to be some supreme justice, and
Mm,
that Messiah is going to do what he's going to do at an appointed time. And while that time hasn't happened, you need to be doing things for yourself
it
and not be
works.
waiting on
Mm,
something externally, when we know that is going to happen at a certain time at a certain place. But while that's not happened and it's not here yet, or you need to be doing something about your situation, you
yeah.
know, not have that slave mentality of I'll just pray because it says faith without works is dead.
Is there. That's exactly what it is, man. Actions speak louder than words. Yeah.
100%.
Faith, praying, all the mantra beads, the mala beads, all this business. Okay, so you've done that. What happens after?
Crystal balls and white sage and everything. So some conjure some
All
like,
kind of madness that I do. It's
yeah,
like,
get
okay,
3 blue crystal and 2 orange, and me just make the thing go long.
yeah,
All right.
burning candles and all kind of thing and this and that. Now, there's nothing wrong with burning candles. There's nothing wrong with having gemstones and all that. But like putting, like, come on, man. The Most High created everything which is natural on this plane of existence. I know there's some Hebrews who not necessarily, they don't mess around with gemstones and all that kind of stuff, and each to their own. But if the Most High created this here, and we know that elements, minerals have certain energy fields and have certain properties. If the Most High created this, I'm going to try and utilize everything that He created for we.
112% on that one. and I would always say there's a thin line between good and evil, you know. So sometimes people get into these external gizmos for
Mhm.
whatever reason, for whatever way they believe it may help or may not help. But sometimes then they put too much emphasis on an external thing too. In term,
Yes.
not an external thing, a material thing.
Mhm.
You know, so then that material thing becomes an idol in a sense.
Idol.
If I don't have
Yes.
this crystal, then I'm not going to be. If I don't have this, and this, and then before you know it, you're going into a mind state of like what we would consider idolatry because you're not depending on
The most high.
inspiration from the Most High. You're
Mhm.
making your own idols of inspiration, and without them, you know, like some man them are so paranoid. But COVID exposed a lot. If they didn't have certain man them, yeah, their hat is an idol. We know our sisters' weaves are idol, but for some man, them the hat's the idol. Yeah. Some reason the hat some man I remember I used to go raving uh back in the day. And if someone never had a fresh haircut, they'd wear their hat or try to fight to get into the club to have their hat on because in their eyes, they're not beautiful enough unless they have a fresh haircut every
Mhm.
Friday. So that hat becomes an idol then of reverence, like it becomes like a lucky gadget or a lucky this or a lucky that. You know what I'm trying to say on a real level,
Yes.
like so
Yes.
and that I guess is comparative of a woman and a weave. You know, some women feel imperfect without a weave, but it's an external thing or a material thing
Yeah.
that you're trying to get worth and validation from. So I
Mhm.
think there's a thin line between knowing a chemical compound or the benefits of certain things, but not
Yes.
letting those things dominate you to say that you need them to live and exist. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
100%. And as you said, balance. And as I say, balance.
Exactly, bro.
These are the key things. Last one for you.
Oh, true.
Kanye West, formerly now calling himself Yee, I guess.
Mm.
Um, Another distraction, in my humble opinion. Trustfully, when he initially came out, like with some of our information or some of the information written
Yeah.
within our manuscript, I should say. I thought, okay, I'm going to give this guy a little bit of, he's finally woke up, even though he was raised in one of the biggest Hebraic communities in the wilderness of North America. He didn't know none of this thing. So I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And then I'm moving on, and I'm seeing him on Alex Jones with a damn Balenciaga mask on and some Adidas gloves. Something. This is marketing, and I said it in the first build I did when he
Mm,
first
mm,
came out.
mm.
I'm like, trustfully, he's on some righteous thing, but based upon his history, and we gotta look at the history. We can't just look at now. And people do make changes for the good, and they do grow and develop. But to me, I just think this is just damn marketing. This is just raw marketing, shock value thing, all the rest of it. I love Nazis, all this stupid stuff. This is just raw marketing because everybody's talking about it now.
Let me just rewind a little. You said that he had a Balenciaga mask,
Yeah,
and
man.
I did watch the skit and stuff, but I didn't realize that was that was a Balenciaga mask, bro, and Adidas gloves.
100% Adidas gloves because I saw the logo. I'm not 100% sure if it was a Balenciaga mask. I would imagine it was because it looked so. It had zips on the eyes and all kind of stuff. So I would imagine it would have been like a top brand kind of thing. And he's got a very good relationship with Balenciaga as well. Let's not forget that there.
Yeah, with his wife and stuff. But this this
Hmm.
this is the thing, you know. And this is gonna show you my ignorance of just certain topics here. I didn't even know what. But listen, where I'm based, yeah, you know, like the whole. Maybe if I was in the city, I would change my car because my car's pretty dated, but it's a strong boy. Like it's a nice little beast of a car.
Yes. Gets us
But
from
it's
A
old.
to B. Yeah, no, I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
but I could like literally I could easily get a new whatever and just be showboating. But
Mm.
where I'm based is like, you know, it's just farmers. Like, what's like I remember when I first got to this place, yeah, had the city mentality of it has to be Adidas, it has to be a
Mm.
brand, it has to be this, it has to be that. And don't get it twisted. Um, yeah, like nah, there's nothing to twist up or twist out. But I remember I went to Lidl or Aldi and I saw some trainers there for £10, bro. I was like, I'm just gonna buy them
And
because I
it, and
need
it,
them to
and
do
it.
walking. I need them to do my
Yes.
hitchhiking walking. And now I forgot all about this because I've been so out of the city for like X amount of years. When I came to the city to link some mandem, I was wearing like some hiking boots and stuff. And they looked at me and was like, bruh, what are you doing in those boots, bro? And I'm like, oh snap. Oh yeah, I need to switch back to city mode very sharply because this isn't the shoes that you wear in the city environment. Talking about Balenciaga now, I never even knew there was a brand called Balenciaga.
You know why I know about them? Because all these little London youths were wearing these trainers with spikes on them, and I always used to take the pee. And so one of my listeners kindly said, "Yeah, they're really expensive, and they're called Balenciagos."
Bro. Yeah, I was oblivious, bro, until this whole thing. That's what I'm saying. Probably is the perfect marketing because a guy in the sticks who didn't know about Balenciaga, now I know about Balenciaga.
Mm,
You get me?
mm,
So possibly is a marketing thing because the things that he's coming out with as well would generally warrant a death decree or
mm.
or immediate termination of everything. Like you
Yes.
wouldn't get that airplay. And then with the Kyrie Irving, even though I think it's so related, I just think it may be a false flag in a sense of distraction. As good as it sounds, because they do this every year. Nick Cannon, then there was the NFL player that came out.
Deshaun Jackson,
Yeah, man. And then it's just like a bit of hype.
Ice
Then
Cube
it's
as
like
well.
Ice Cube. You see what I'm saying?
Mm,
And then
yeah,
you have
man.
a movement now called JBEA.
Pardon.
JBEA. So
Um,
that's Jewish Black Entertainment Alliance.
wow.
So Nick Cannon is the spokesperson on there. Bro, that's what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? So listen. I don't scratch unless I got itch, and I don't think I need to itch that way or scratch that way. Should I say?
Interesting, man. This is actually like theater for the last couple of years since the zombie apocalypse. All I've been shouting, theater, theater. But the worst thing about it is we're all part of this movie, this
Mm,
film that's going on, but we've been given no scripts, we've been given no payments, no
mm.
contracts. We just unwillingly, some willingly, just going along with the thing. Like, yeah, man, I'll be extra here. Yeah, man, what do you want me to do? You want me to just jump in front of this boss? Yeah, man, I'll do it.
Wow, wow. And it's I was gonna say something, but it went out my mind, man. But yeah, it is coming across like a theater, man. Oh yeah, even some of the interactions that you see online, I believe some of them are not disingenuous, but staged. You know. So, for example, when you see certain people out there preaching on a corner and saying some pretty rotten expletive things, yeah, but the channel's not removed or taken down for hate,
Oh my, I
but
know
it's left to
exactly what you're talking about.
circulate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not, I am dumb and I am slow, but I ain't that dumb and that slow to know why would you allow this on though?
Yeah.
If hate speech is so bad to send a tweet, yeah, why do you know that there are channels out there that is the thing that they promote? Now, Theodore Herzl, the Zionist champion, he says we want to agitate anti-Semites so that we can liquidate the value from that because then we get funding, then we get to bring in the lobbyists, then we get to bring in laws, and then we get to, I guess, sing the victimhood
Mm.
narrative because we're being attacked. So they like to circulate certain groups so that they can appear more innocent. So you need to have these extremist kind of quote unquote agitators so that it looks good on their half, if that makes sense.
And it's a two-pronged attack because what it also does is for anyone says, "Oh, so TCA man, you Christian or like I noticed you're moving a little different," and you say, "Okay, well, you might drop a little something," and they go online and look, they type in Israel or Israelite or something, and the first thing they see is these hate mongers
Mm.
cussing down.
COINTELPRO, man. It's COINTELPRO.
Yes.
But with a Israelite veneer and a
Mm.
beard and a fringe. It's all just, like you said, a theater, you know? And it's been proven time and time and again, a lot of these groups are CIA or because CIA means counter-intelligence agency. That's what people have
Yes.
said. Also,
Yes.
Catholics in Action.
Oh
And so a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
these
yeah.
things are controlled by Jesuits, controlled by FBI,
Also,
CIA organizations.
cocaine import agency.
Exactly, bro.
Freeway Ricky Ross, man. What they did to that, brother?
And then one of his album covers was called was it called The Black? What was his album cover
Are
now?
you're talking about the fake Rick Ross
Oh
now? I'm
yeah, the
talking about,
fake Rick Ross. The fake, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you're
yeah,
talking about the real one, but the fake
yeah.
one, his album cover's got the Star of So-Called David.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, man, the whole thing's just smoke and mirrors, man. They put certain people in your face to be a messiah. You
Mm.
know, that's why J. Edgar Hoover said, "You think you're gonna get a messiah outside of us giving you one?"
Cross-dressing, which it's on the records, it's on the books.
But listen to what he said, bro. He said, "Listen, you're not getting no messiah unless we approve of him first. We're gonna manufacture you a messiah." And on that same point, man, we got all these fake little incubators now, loads of cloning and stuff. Is boy, that's another topic, man. But yo, there's so much
Indeed.
mad stuff going on, man.
We got to guard self physically, mentally, spiritually. Hearken to the Most High as much as possible. Study to show thyself approved. Sibling, it's been an honor, pleasure.
Always.
Thank you very much for your time. I'll make sure I put the links below. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel. This brother is putting out nothing but content, and I commend you for the time. People don't understand how much time it takes to put together that kind of content you're doing. And the research, I mean, the research, and not because we do the research, we can just do that and then spit it off. But to put the visuals to the things that you're doing, sibling, salute. Yeah.
Hallelujah, man. Glory to the Most High. Thanks for having me on, bro, and keep doing what he's doing on that side of the world, you know, in Birmingham.
Yeah, man.
Keep it moving,
Rumtown.
bro.
Definite, man. Honors,
Yeah.
sibling, honors.
All right. Bless up, man. Peace.
Blessed.